Asada, the author of Beat Black Kids. Yay! Yay!
I want to say thank you to everybody for coming out today. This is a very important topic. It's an important book because it handles some stuff. It's important for me to let everybody know I didn't write this book so that you can hear my opinion about the topic. I wrote the book because I need people to handle the issue. Like I need us to make a decision about what we're going to do going forward about the issue. And the book doesn't make wrong. It doesn't say you did this, you shouldn't do. No, the book just says look at this and look at it from this point of view, and it asks what are you going to do about it. That's what the book does. Yeah, Beat Black Kids. Some people are disturbed by the title, but it's a disturbing topic. I didn't do that. I don't do that. So people ask me, it sounds like you're telling me to beat black kids. I said, nah, that's what they're doing. They're beating the kids. We need to handle that. So for some reason, the whole black race has experienced being beat with this stuff. The whole race. Like it's not even isolated incidents. The whole entire race has something to say about, oh, I got beat with that. When they look at my top, and they look at the cover of the book, they go, they laugh and they go, oh, I got beat with this. Oh, I got beat with this. I got beat with that. I got beat with that. The fact that the entire race has stories, that to me is problematic because it's the only race of people who have, everybody just about has stories about being beat with this stuff or friends who've been beat with it, and we just have to handle that. Like you can't go on and say, well, I got beat, look at me, I'm fine. And I'm like, yeah, we got lynched too. Would you want me to look at you after that too? Like, so what? We the offspring of the people who didn't jump off the boat. Like, so what? Do we validate all of the abusive things that we took on? Nah, we just have to handle it, stop it.
Well, it's funny how you say it's our race and other races just don't recognize that for the most part. I remember going to therapy in my 20s, and this was a therapist. She was an Indian woman, and she was referred to me by a friend of mine who had a similar childhood and went through a lot of things. And so she had asked me to describe an incident, and I was telling her about the extension cord. And she stopped me, she said, what is it with the extension cord? Because she had heard this from my friend whose mother had used that. And she's like, is this a cultural thing with the extension cord? And it dawned on me that, oh, I guess other people really don't know what that's like, what that is. Just any random object that's lying around the house.
Sure. The first thing they can get.
Right.
The first
thing they lay their hand on.
Right. That's right. You get struck with it. So definitely, yeah, that's a good example because I found a lot of people don't. When I start describing this stuff, and I talk to people about the races, they be like, oh, like their faces are like, what? Oh, the black people is just funny. Yeah. They think it's funny. We just like, we can relate. Like the extension cord is like you see it's in the center of the book because that's the central weapon used.
Weapon of choice.
Weapon of choice.
I never realized that before. It's right in the middle.
Yeah, put it in the middle. And then I put a switch on there because everybody has switch stories about how you go out and get a switch, and if it's too small, you're going to go out and get another one and get a switch, and so, or you're going to get a worse beating if you don't get a switch. You're going to get your own weapon for you to go get beaten.
I kind of want to dovetail on what you said, is that when I sit down and I talk to like a group of blacks or African Americans, it's like, that's a subject that always comes up. But when I sit down and I talk to other groups, it's like, it's not a subject that comes up. Because it's not, I haven't experienced this, by looking at their race and see what's happened, but I would imagine that it's not as prevalent in their race as it is in ours as we grow up.
What I'm currently using in my life and what has healed me tremendously is understanding that my power doesn't come from myself, that all of these experiences can be used for the glory of God, can change another person's life. It doesn't have to remain that way in my life because I could have just used it as an excuse not to mature, not to develop, and to just take on a character as if I'm the victim. But I'm the victor in this.
Why don't we stop fronting like it's no pain? Like we keep acting like this didn't have an impact. Getting beatings was we just got beatings. And I told her, I hear that a lot. I got beat, look at me. Because it did hurt people. And that's why I wrote the book for real, because I started talking to people. And when you're 60 years old and you coming to me with stories of you getting beat when you was 12, that's a problem. You know why? Because it's still there. Like, not the physical beating like the mark that was left, but like the mark. I have a chapter called Marks, and it talks about physical marks that was left, but it also talks about the mark you make on the spirit. You know, you could break a child's spirit, or you could make a child's spirit. You know, and there's just a lot of broken spirits out there of black folks who got beatings, and nobody's reckoning with it. Like, ain't nobody calling us on this. Like, nobody's calling us, like, just stop, or stop this, or stop that, or beat. It's just whatever the reasons are, people grow up into adults that can't do things. And that's why I wrote the book, too, because I need to see young black kids come up and run the whole gym. Obama, 10 times over. Like, it shouldn't be a surprise.
As a human family, we don't escape these things.
Sure.
But how we process them, thank you for bringing that out.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the context of beatings, I think it kind of sheds some light on to why and how its influences, continue on to today. Like, slaves who didn't want their children to be beat by a master would prefer to beat their kids themselves.
Right.
Because it'd be the lesser of the two evils in terms of pain.
Everybody's
So it's like you can't escape it. I prefer to do that than to have master do that. And it's like, so what's the kid thinking as they're receiving these blows? How do they feel about being hit? Do they understand what's really happening? And the frustration that the parents are feeling in the midst of this, and how do they internalize it? Do they take it as, well, my parents, those kids, do they take it as, well, my father beat me, so I'm going to beat my kids? Has that been a process? Has it been part of the legacy of slavery in America for people to unknowingly be beat to lead to circumstances that we see today? Does it really date back that far? I think so. I mean, and not only just for the African American experience here in the United States, but I mean, you go to Ghana, you go to Nigeria, people give you stories of being beat, and I'm sure to some extent that relates to the extent that people's personal freedoms were infringed upon, and escape the other outlets for dealing with the problems didn't hit the problems head on, such that they're manifested in other ways that affect those you care about.
It hit home for me, the connection with slavery. One night I was watching a documentary on slavery, the same friend that I mentioned earlier, and there was a drawing of a slave being laid out on the ground, spread eagle, nude, and the slave master with the whip. And she flinched, and I said, "Is this too much for you? You want to turn?" She says to me, "Oh my God, that's the way my mother used to beat me."
Wow.
The same exact technique that they use was passed down through the generations, and her mother used the same technique. She said she would make me strip, lay spread eagle on the ground, and whip me out.
Wow.
And that to me is like the aha moment, like, oh wow.
Our people have technology around this. One guy said, "Oh yeah, you take a belt and you gotta wrap it around the hand, wrap it around like 4 times, so you have about this much belt left." You ever get beat with that? Yeah, you take it and you get beat with that. Like, it's all this technology around how you get beat. And to me, like, that's what slaves do. What ends up happening is that you gotta make that right. That having to make it right. I don't want to hear that. And I think the passage that's on the website about spare the rod, spoil the child. One of my biggest issues with that scripture. It's not really to get into the scripture and say that the scripture is wrong. It's how people are using it. Right. They're trying to justify hitting their kids. On the radio last week, the sister comes on. Well, I just feel, you're doing all this explaining to the young people. And instead of explaining anything to them, you should just tell them. You're the parent. You just tell them. And she prefaced it all with, "I'm a Christian." She said, "Well, I'm a Christian. And I feel like, you should just tell them." And da-da-da. And she was very, for beating kids. And to me, the two are not related. But I need for us to look at that topic even down to that very thing. It's like, 1, where to come from, 2, why are you still doing it? And that's really what the book deals with. Why are you still doing that? It's because it's a learned behavior. You're doing what you were taught. Because I know as a mom and as a teacher, the things that I do, they're not conventional per se, but they're also not foreign. I don't give her flowers, do new things and say, "Go to your room with a flower." Like, I don't do none of that. I don't even do timeout. Like, timeout is cornball to me. I got this happening called no timeout. I'm not into timeout. I'm into conversations. You understand me? I'm into not making her wrong. You understand?